curriculum am I keeping and which ones am I going to ditch for the next school year? Hi, I'm Jenny with Kids Learning for Life, and next year I will have a 4th grader, a 2nd grader, and a 4-year-old. I should also mention that I will have a newborn baby at the very beginning of the upcoming school year. So I will only be talking about curriculum I'm using with my older two because they're my only school-aged kids. Let's get started by talking about math. You may or may not know, but recently I actually switched back to our previous math curriculum that we had started with called Primary Mathematics. And so far this year, it's been going great. I think my kids are more on track than they ever have been. So I plan on continuing with Primary Mathematics into the upcoming school year. This is what the books look like that my girls use. So my 4th grader currently she's in book 2B. She'll probably be in 3A by the fall. And my 1st grader, who's going into 2nd grade, will probably be in book 2A by the beginning of the next school year. And like I said, these are working great for us right now, and I do highly recommend this curriculum. My only complaint with Primary Mathematics is I feel like sometimes the pacing is kind of strange. Like sometimes for some concepts that are pretty difficult, they don't give a ton of practice. So I do plan on supplementing Primary Mathematics with maybe some practice sheets that either I make myself or maybe just get some of those like Kumon math workbooks if those happen to work out. My kids have also recently started using the Math Tango app, which costs $8 total for the whole family. So it's not per child. And as of right now, it does carry a lot of value for us. My kids use it almost every day we do school. It's kind of partially reward, partially educational. And I mean, it's definitely educational, but what I'm saying is it's like an educational activity disguised as a prize for them. They really enjoy it. I watch over their shoulder constantly while they're using it, and I think it's a really great tool. So as of right now, it holds value for us, but we'll see if I continue that into this upcoming school year because I don't necessarily want to pay $8 per month into the future forever. One other thing that my husband has actually been doing to help out with our homeschool since I've been pregnant, and he knows, my pregnancy is only going to get a little harder as time goes on. And when school starts, I will have the newborn, is he's actually been doing math fact time with the kids. So he'll do like flashcards with them and he makes it really fun. So as long as he's willing to help, I will accept it. Next, let's talk about language arts. I think that because my kids and I have really focused on language arts this past year, this is kind of the first year we've gone into a school year feeling really strong in this subject. My upcoming 4th grader has been doing a lot of creative writing classes with her friends lately with various instructors, and that's all been going so well. And I highly recommend kind of outsourcing any skills that maybe you need your kids to focus on to someone else if you need to, and if you have it in your budget or if it is offered to you, because it has made a world of difference for her to kind of work communally with like her friends and kind of bounce ideas off each other and kind of see what her friends are capable of as well. It really made like a huge difference in her writing confidence and her writing skills. Aside from doing, maybe some sort of like group language arts class, which I hope to continue into the next year, my 4th grader will be using primary language lessons. We use this currently and I see no reason to stop. She's actually almost done with this book. So maybe we'll either be at the end of this book or the beginning of the next book, which is called Intermediate Language Lessons, which I haven't really delved too deeply into yet. But this is great. It teaches all sorts of different language arts concepts. It's not just poetry. It's not just grammar. Like it's everything. It's like dictation, copy work. Like recently she learned how to write a letter, like how to do the letter, but also like how to address an envelope and put the return address. And it was just very cool. And I think it teaches a lot of practical skills. I think it's a really cool book because there's lots of poetry in it as well. So I recommend this if you want kind of an old-fashioned approach to language arts. Since she's gonna have so many different things going on, I probably will not continue too much with lightning literature with her. This just seems a little basic for her at this point, which is so crazy to say because I feel like lightning literature in general is pretty challenging for the age range that it's designed for. Like this is the grade 2 book, and up until recently, this was kind of hard for her. But because her skills have just improved immensely over the past couple of months. I just really don't think she needs this kind of thing. Like these kinds of lines, she doesn't write on these thick lines anymore. She uses the like notebook paper. So sadly for her in particular, we probably will not continue with this, and that makes me really sad because if you followed this channel for any time at all, you know that I love lightning literature and I would love to continue it, but there's kind of not room in our homeschool day for it anymore. But I do have, another school-age daughter. So my second grader will probably most definitely do lightning literature grade 1 next year. I think we've been really focusing on copywork currently, and I think she'll finally be able to actually write sentences on her own by the time she enters second grade. So this will be perfect for her. And like I said, this curriculum does seem to be a little bit advanced for the grade it's written for. So even though she's going into second grade, I'll start her in the grade 1 book at the beginning of the school year. So looking forward to continuing on with our lightning literature traditions with her. I do also want to mention that she just loves Beyond the Code. She's actually almost done with this book 1, so I'm sure she'll be in book 2 or 3 by the beginning of the school year. So we will continue with Beyond the Code just because she enjoys it and it's something kind of open and go that she can totally do on her own. And as always, we are going to continue on with Ambleside Online, and Ambleside Online has great literature readings for year 3, which is the year that my 2 school-age children will be doing next year. There are things like The Princess and the Goblin, which I've been kind of I listened to it in audiobook form just to kind of pre-read, and I'm enjoying it. I think they'll really like it. There's Children of the New Forest, there's The Jungle Book, and also I'm really excited that Ambleside Online is going to start getting into Greek mythology, which is one of my own personal favorite subjects, with a book called The Heroes. So we have a lot to look forward to, but also a lot to read this upcoming school year with Ambleside Online. And this list is not a comprehensive list of what we will be doing with Ambleside Online this upcoming school year. So for the full list and for all the details on all the books, please, please, please check out the Ambleside Online link in the description below. Next up is history. We will be continuing to trek along with our Ambleside Online history readings, which is my favorite component of Ambleside Online. And it's also my favorite subject to teach. So that means we're continuing on with books like Our Island Story, A Child's History of the World, and also This Country of Ours, which I don't have right here, but it's great. It's all about American history. At the end of this upcoming school year, we kind of just barely get into This Country of Ours. We've only done a couple chapters so far, but next year, in year 3, there is a lot more of that early American history, which I am just thrilled to get to. The Ambleside Online schedule has history readings woven together from all 3 of the books, This Country of Ours, Our Island Story, and Child's History of the World. So it's really masterfully done, and I think it's great. It kind of mixes things up so you don't get so bored of one book at any given time. One thing with history that I feel like I could totally improve on, and I'm not sure if you can relate to this as if you're a Charlotte Mason family or not, is I need to get better about using this guy. This is my Book of Centuries. I've done a whole video about this. I did a video on how to use a Book of Centuries probably over a year ago. And to be honest, I have just not been the best at updating this Book of Centuries. And to be clear, this is our family Book of Centuries. I don't expect my kids to do their own Book of Centuries quite yet. I plan on getting a differently formatted one for them, that would have maybe more room for them to copy and paste pictures or draw their own pictures straight into the Book of Centuries so they don't have to do so much writing. If you don't already know, it's a timeline, a physical timeline of the events that happen in history. So if you come across a certain date that comes up in your history readings, you can add it in your Book of Centuries. And it's really cool because the more stuff you add, your kids and you get this feeling of in relation to where things were happening in the world, but happening at the same time, even if they were happening in completely different areas. So it's been really fun as I do start to get better at filling this out, that we do kind of see the relationship between these different events. So continuing on with the Book of Centuries, getting better at using the Book of Centuries is on my list for next year, for sure, because this is really important to me. I think it's a great tool. I think it's something any family could use, and it's really, really interesting. Okay, now that we're done talking about my favorite subject, history, let's talk about science. I don't use the science curriculum. I have tried many times to use different science curriculums, and none of them have impressed me. And none of them have just been like something that I could integrate into our lives really at all. They have all felt like roadblocks. So we do a very interest-led approach to science. In the rare instances that I do want to use something a little more structured for science, we use Mystery Science. It's a great curriculum. It's actually kind of designed for actual elementary school teachers, which is one thing that I wish it wasn't, but it's okay to use in a homeschool setting. And it includes little activities, little worksheets that you could do if you're into that kind of thing. And I think the videos are really well done and the topics are typically interesting to my kids. So Mystery Science is what we will use in those rare instances where I feel like my kids might enjoy something like that. Aside from an actual curriculum, I mean, we love watching science documentaries, in particular the National Geographic stuff that's on Disney+. So like we love, let's say, like Critter Fixers. We love like the World's Deadliest series. There's also a whole series on there about the national parks. So those are just some examples of some good ones that I would recommend to any family that like the whole family can kind of watch and enjoy together. And honestly, I don't really have much else to say about science, so I'll just leave it there. One thing that I have on my mind going into this upcoming school year is the fact that I will have a newborn baby, which is kind of funny because I actually had my last child, so my 4-year-old, I had her, well, she's about to be 4, I should clarify. I had her right at the beginning of the first year that I homeschooled. So I feel like if I could homeschool back then when I really had no clue what was going on, I can definitely homeschool now, even though it's an additional child thrown into the mix. But that being said, I am trying to make considerations to keep things as open and go as possible because I'm just trying to be really realistic. There will be times when I won't be able to sit at the table necessarily with the kids. I might be feeding the baby, I might be changing a diaper, I might be giving the baby a bath, I don't know. So I want my kids to be able to kind of open and go. And of course, I still want to have a very active hand in their education, but it's just important to me that they are able to do some activities on their own. Like Ambleside Online really does require me to do a little bit more, but for the everyday school stuff like the math and the language arts, I want it to be something that they feel empowered to do on their own for the most part, and they can always ask questions, but this is just my mindset going into a school year of having now 4 children. In addition to having the new baby, I will be going back to work, obviously after my maternity leave for my full-time job. Not Kids Learning for Life, but like my actual full-time job. And then, going back to the kids doing all their extracurriculars that start in the fall. So it might be kind of a lot, but like those are more things that I'm considering as I'm like, thinking about which curriculums and which extracurriculars to sign up my kids for. And since I know that our lives are gonna get very busy in the fall, I do plan on doing as much school with my kids as possible this summer, which I've always talked about. I don't ever stop doing school since our school schedule is kind of, I wouldn't say sporadic, but it's just light throughout the year. So I'd rather just do something light and create a habit of on this day and this day and this day of the week, this is when we do school, and it's not going to take us super long, but you are expected to sit down and focus on it for this amount of time and XYZ. So I don't really take any big breaks, especially not during the summer when, it feels like a good time to get ahead or at least get caught up. So we will be hitting the books hard this summer as usual. But I am really looking forward to having the new baby, meeting the new baby, not being pregnant anymore because I always feel better postpartum than I do while I'm pregnant. And I also really look forward to continuing to homeschool the way that's been already working for us this past year. As I mentioned before, I really do plan on using my book of centuries a lot more this upcoming school year. And like I said, I also made a whole video about this, so I will link to that video right over here for you so that you can see how to use a book of centuries in your own homeschool. See you next time, and happy homeschooling.